This is the Millionaires Roundtable. I'm your host, Lynn Richardson. We are creating millionaires one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, one dime at a time. And that means you. This is the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson, and we are creating millionaires one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, and one dime at a time. And that means you. I sincerely believe that each and every one of us has the ability to acquire a $1 million net worth. What do I mean by that? I simply mean taking the difference between everything you own minus what you owe. So if you take your assets, like your real estate, your cash, your retirement accounts, your furniture, your jewelry, clothing, everything you own, and you subtract your debt, subtract your credit card debt, your student loan debt, your mortgages, your furniture bills, any debt that you have. If you take the difference between everything you own minus what you owe, you will then have your net worth. And my belief, my dream, my goal, and my mission is to ensure that your net worth exceeds 7 figures in this lifetime before you retire, while you can still enjoy your wealth. Why? Because more money doesn't solve a money problem. If it did, millionaires wouldn't go bankrupt. If more money could solve a money problem, you'd never have a bankrupt millionaire. You'd never have a bankrupt billionaire. So this show is all about teaching you how to build that net worth one day at a time, $1 at a time. And guess what? One step at a time. So you've heard me talk about my stair steps. And like any set of stairs, you can take one step at a time. Or if you're feeling really powerful, you can take 2 steps at a time, maybe even 3. The very first step on this journey is to spend less money. Get everything under control. 1 + 1 = 2. If your stuff adds up to 10, it will never, ever get into 2. The next step in this process is to eliminate your debt. Why? Because debt is the middleman between you and your wealth. When you have debt, you pay interest. When you pay interest, someone else is getting rich off of your dollar. You have $1 and you have to pay them $1.50 for the same exact price. What happens if you now take that extra 50 cents and you put it into your bank account? So that's what eliminating your debt will do. It will allow your money to work harder for you than you can ever work for it. Yes, that's right. You can work 40 hours a week, 80 hours a week, 200 hours a week. Now, if you try to work that hard, something is going to give. It's called the law of diminishing returns, which basically says the more effort you put out, the less quality you will have coming back in. Because at some point, you have to understand you're not a machine, you're a human being. But money never gets tired. Money will work harder for you than you can ever work for it. So that's why you want to eliminate your debt. The third thing you want to do is start a home-based business. Everybody needs a home-based business. Everybody needs a home-based business. Why? Because not only is it allowing you to earn additional income, but when you have a home-based business, the IRS gives you access to well over 400 tax deductions that you otherwise would not have without the home-based business. For example, when you drive your car for business, you can get your money back. When you go and have a meal for business, you can get your money back. When you travel for business, you get your money back. When you use your mobile phone for business, you get your money back. And when I say get your money back, I simply mean in the terms of a tax write-off. So guess what? Tax time is going to come up at least once a year for everybody. There are 2 things that are certain in this life. You will die at some point and you will pay taxes. Now, there's a whole lot of other things you can change, but you can't change those 2 things. So since taxes are going to come up, you may as well make it a part of your wealth building strategy. The 4th thing you want to do is plan for retirement. You want to start now. How old are you? 15, 25, 35, 45, doesn't matter what age. What matters is that you start small and you stay consistent. If you're in your teens, start with $50 a month. If you're in your 20s, boost it up to $75 or $100 a month. If you're in your 30s, take it up to $100 or $150 or $200. If you're in your 40s and 50s and 60s, well, you might have to increase it a little bit. That's why you want to eliminate your debt. Because if you're paying debt, then you are robbing your future. The fifth thing that you want to deal with, the fifth step, I should say, is protecting everything you built with proper life insurance and estate planning. So now we're going to talk about stair step number 6. Own where you live. Own real estate. Real estate, for many families, is the foundation for building wealth. Until you own where you live, in many cases, other income producing and wealth building endeavors simply do not make sense. Why? Because everybody has to live somewhere. So if you're going to live anyway, and if you're going to have an expense associated with living, then how about owning your own home? So let's start with some of the myths of home ownership. The very first myth that I want to deal with is that you have to have perfect credit. That is so far from the truth. You do not have to have perfect credit to own a home. As a matter of fact, the minimum credit score for a low interest rate, low down payment government program that allows you to not only buy a home, but to get into that home and keep it with a low interest rate is the FHA program. FHA, VA, and the FHA 203K program allow you to get into a home with a down payment of 3% or even less. It's 0% for the VA program. And guess what? You don't have to have perfect credit. I've had people who have had bankruptcy, foreclosure, collections, and judgments overcome those things and get approved for a mortgage. So let's say, for example, you have no credit score. So for everyone who's out there telling you that you have to have a 700 or 800 credit score to get a good mortgage, it's not the truth. You can actually have a 0 credit score. Let me repeat. You can actually have a 0 credit score. Now, who has a 0 credit score? Millions of people who do not use traditional credit. And according to many financial experts, not having any traditional credit is a good thing. These are people just like you and I, who work, who live profitable, healthy, responsible, and ethical lives. They simply do not have any kind of credit. They pay for everything in cash. They pay for their rent in cash. They pay their mobile, utility bills, and every other bill that they have, they simply pay in cash. They have no revolving credit. They have no car loans. They have no student loans. So what happens if you pull your credit report and you're told that you don't have a credit score at all? Well, guess what? You can still apply for a mortgage. And if you're working with the right lender, who I highly recommend that you research or go to my website at lynnrichardson.com and work with a member of my team, I highly recommend that you work with someone who understands how to help you get approved for a mortgage with a 0 credit score. Here's what they're going to do. They're going to take 3 or 4 of the bills that you currently have. They're going to get a 12 or 24-month payment history, and they're going to create a credit report for you. It's called a residential mortgage credit report. So if you go into the bank and they say, well, no, you cannot get approved for a mortgage, in many cases, you are speaking to someone who's unknowledgeable. You're speaking to a customer service representative who is basically reading the qualifications, but does not understand underwriting principles. So if you have no credit score, guess what can go on your residential mortgage credit report? Your rent payment. It's a great idea for you to pay your rent through some electronic method every single month, if possible. Now, I realize if you live in a building and the landlord lives upstairs, they may or may not take checks. How about PayPal? How about Zelle? How about some other electronic form of communication? Because when you are documenting that you've paid your rent on time every month, you're either going to need the canceled check for the past 12 months, or an electronic transfer of funds in your bank account for the past 12 months, and or you're going to need a letter from the landlord stating that you have paid your rent on time every month for the period of time that's being requested by your mortgage lender. Okay, so you're going to repeat this process for your mobile phone. You're going to repeat that process for your electric bill or your utilities. What if you pay for daycare? If you can find 4 things that you pay on time every month, guess what? You too can get into a home. What about bankruptcy? If you filed bankruptcy, let's take a Chapter 13. A Chapter 13 bankruptcy is a repayment plan, and it's much better than a debt consolidation. Let me explain to you why. A debt consolidation has no legal protection. So if you've got 15 or 20 bills, you cannot pay them all. You call a debt consolidation company. The debt consolidation company is ultimately going to do what you can do. They're going to call all of your creditors and say that you cannot afford to pay. And they're going to create a payment plan where you're giving each creditor a partial payment every month. And it's possible that some of the creditors won't get paid each month. Well, they may agree, but that doesn't prevent them from reporting you late to the credit bureaus. If you file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, and I'm certainly not suggesting that everyone do this, but I'm going to tell you why you may want to consider filing a Chapter 13 bankruptcy in my next stair step when I'm dealing with credit. But I will tell you, if you file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, then your creditors must abide by the terms of the repayment plan, even if it means they don't get all of their money. So when you file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, you will have to pay the trustee a monthly payment every month until your plan is over. Guess what? 1 year into your Chapter 13 bankruptcy, you can apply for a mortgage and you can get approved. As long as you've paid your Chapter 13 trustee payment on time, I highly recommend payroll deduction for that. And as long as you get approval from the court, from the Chapter 13 trustee, and it's a simple process. You will call your attorney and say, I'm applying for a mortgage. Your attorney will then set a date, and the Chapter 13 trustee will want to see your mortgage application and all of your home buying documents. And as long as your monthly payment fits within your budget, then the Chapter 13 trustee will approve you buying a home. Now, how great is that? That is absolutely magnificent. So as you are building wealth and getting to your $1 million net worth, real estate is definitely a foundation for building that $1 million plan that's in your future. This is the Millionaires Roundtable. We'll be right back.
Meet Lynn Richardson, celebrity financial expert. You might have seen Lynn on Good Morning America giving financial advice. For more than 2 decades of having leading roles in the banking and real estate sales industries, Lynn has helped clients face their money issues and achieve their personal, professional, and financial goals. Lynn is committed to using her financial expertise to benefit others. She's helped thousands of clients get out of debt, start home-based businesses, and create multiple streams of income. To learn more, please visit lynnrichardson.com, where financial dreams meet focus to generate wealth. Check out Tax Talk Thursday with Lynn Richardson as she and her special guests give tools and tips to help us better understand the state and federal tax system.
Just give us something that we can use to get those who have never understood the tax system and how it works.
We have 2 tax systems in this country. And when I say that, I always have people say, oh, sure, one for rich and one for poor. That is not true. That's a myth. There's one to make you rich and there's one to take your wealth, basically.
Learn how to get greater tax returns or learn how your business write-offs can lower your taxes.
It's more about how much money you keep than it is about how much money you earn, right?
Yeah.
Would you rather earn $2 million and end up with $1 million, or would you rather earn $1.25 million and keep it all?
We are creating millionaires one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, and one dime at a time. And that means you.
Tune in to Tax Talk Thursday on lynnrichardson.tv.
Share and subscribe. This is the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson, and we are talking about stair step number 6, own where you live. So now that you know credit will not prevent you from owning a home, now let's talk about down payment. Now, the first thing that I recommend is that you have at least 6 months of living expenses saved. I know you may have been told 3 months. I know you may have been told you don't need any money to put down. But here's what I don't want you to do. I do not want you to buy a house and be house rich and cash poor. When you own a home, you are responsible. You're responsible for repairs. If it's 200 degrees outside and the air conditioner goes out, you're either going to melt or you're going to get the money out of your emergency fund to get the air conditioning fixed. If it's 30 below zero and your heater goes out, you're either going to freeze or you're going to go into your emergency fund and get the money that you need to make sure that your heating system is sufficient. Otherwise, you're going to have to move out of your house, spend money to stay in a hotel or be inconvenienced by staying with another family member and still have to pay the mortgage. So as long as you have a mortgage to pay, I want to be 100% certain that you have enough money in your emergency fund to handle unexpected things that may come up. 6 months of living expenses is the minimum, but I'd really like it if you had a year. So if you have $30,000 in the bank and you make $30,000 a year, good deal. If you have $50,000 in the bank and you make $50,000 a year, great deal. Now you might be thinking, Lynn, where am I going to get this money? I'm going to tell you a little story. One of my really good friends when I was growing up, her mom had about an 8th grade education and she went to go and buy her first house and nobody knew that she had money. So when she went and sat with the banker said, how much do you have? She said 15. He said, oh, 1,500? She said, no, 15,000. This was a woman living in the projects of Chicago who had $15,000 making minimum wage, which I think at that time was less than $6 an hour. How'd she do it? She saved her tax refunds. She spent less money than she made. She followed the steps before I even knew what they were or created them. And you can do the same. So now that you've got your credit and your down payment and your funds available, you may be able to purchase a house with 3% down. You may be able to purchase a house with $0 down. But $0 down does not mean you can do this without any money. You're going to need earnest money. That's when you put a contract on the house that you want, the seller accepts it, and you've got to put some money down to be sure that you're going to stick to the process. That may be $1,000, $2,500, or in the event of new construction, it may be as high as 3% of the total price of the home or $5,000 or $10,000. You want to have that money available. Now that you're ready to think about buying your home, what kind of home do you want to buy? Well, certainly you could buy a single family home and live in it. But what about a multi-unit building? What about 2 units? You rent out 1 unit, the tenant pays rent, that rent pays the mortgage, and you live rent-free, mortgage-free. What if you're spending right now $2,000 a month on rent? If you buy a 2-unit building, you've eliminated your rent and your housing payment, and that money should now go in the bank. So in 1 year, you've got $24,000 that you're saving that you would have otherwise spent on rent. And now your tenant pays you rent for the other unit, and that rent should pay the mortgage and then some. If you have 3 units, you've got even more of a profit. And if you've got 4 units, guess what? You are in the business of making your money work harder for you than you can ever work for it. The beautiful thing is you can get anything from a 1 unit, a single family home, a condo, or a townhome, up to 4 units for as little as 3% down or less. Do not believe the myth that you must have 20% to put down. I'd like you to have 6 months to a year saved, but you don't have to have that amount of money down. So I want you to think about owning where you live. If you live in a high cost state, think about moving someplace else or think about purchasing someplace else. But I know we have so many questions about this. So right now, we're going to take a call. Let's see who we have.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great.
My name is Denise, and I am laid off currently from a large healthcare organization. And
Okay.
I traveled a lot for my company and rented. When I moved, I rented homes. Well, I'm currently here, and the lease is about up, and the landlord wants to sell the home. And I can purchase the home. I have money in my reserves and in my 401k. But to apply for a mortgage, and I do not have a W-2 job, I'm still laid off. How do I present myself as far as getting a mortgage? Can you help me with that?
Okay, excellent question. Okay, so here are a couple of things you want to consider. First of all, if you are not working and you're laid off, I do not recommend going into any long-term debt in that scenario. If you are able to pay your bills right now and you're getting unemployment or some other kind of income while you are temporarily not working, consider that a blessing. But do not take that blessing and now go get yourself into a 30-year contract. I don't recommend that. I highly recommend that you get as many jobs as you can by any legal, ethical, and moral means necessary. Work at the retail store, get a home-based business, do some freelance work, whatever it takes. And if you can maintain a consistent income from those sources for at least 6 months while you are laid off, then you may want to consider purchasing the property. Here's the other thing you want to consider. If you are anticipating purchasing a property that is rental property, if it has 3 units that you are not going to live in, let's say you live in 1 unit and there's at least 1 to 3 other units, then the rent from the other units are considered income. Let me repeat, the rent from the other units are considered income. So let's say, for example, you're going to get $1,000 in rent off of the other 3 units. That's $3,000 in income, and the mortgage company will typically allow you to use 70% of that income to qualify for the mortgage. So in this case, 70% of $3,000 is $2,100. The $2,100 will be used to help you qualify for the mortgage. So the beautiful thing about buying income property is not only will the tenants pay the mortgage and you live rent-free, but the tenant's income also helps you qualify for the mortgage. And I highly recommend that you prepay the mortgage, get that mortgage paid off as soon as possible so that you have a debt-free income producing asset. This is the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson, and we are creating millionaires one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, and 1 dime at a time. And that means you, and I'll see you next time.
Now stay tuned for a sneak peek of Wealthy Wednesday on LynnRichardson.tv.
People straight on that.
Let me tell you. So for those who don't know the 10, 10, 30, 50, first of all, you can get all the details in my book. Don't forget to subscribe and share, all that stuff. But in Living Check to Monday, I broke it down because I was making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a month. I was still broke. And so I started actually following the rules, which are the truth. So the first 10% you tithe, the next 10% you save,
Yes.
the 30% is cash in your pocket. Cash for your incidentals, like groceries, gas, hair, nails. If it doesn't fit, get rid of it. And then the remaining 50% stays in your checking account for your bills. If you have more than enough money, that's not a license to go buy a lot of stuff. You want to get rid of your debt. If you don't have enough money, then you have to subtract.
And I was like, oh my God. This makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And I think people can appreciate, especially, I've been with you many times when you've spoken live to, thousands of women. And when they hear that breakdown of 10, 10, 30, 50, and you go into each and why it's important, it feels like they just ready to get loose. It's like, oh my goodness, this is what I've been doing.
People are free. So if you don't put your appointments in your calendar, you'll be one place like, oh, I forgot about that. So we just call it a schedule. We keep it clean. We keep it easy. So I want everybody on this Wealthy Wednesday, Light said it, people hear it and they're like, oh my God, that's freedom. This is a freedom series. This is about you going to the next level. The 10, 10, 30, 50, the first 10% you tithe, the next 10% you save, 30% cash, and it's to help you avoid a spending addiction, which is what you have when you go to the grocery store for toothpaste and you walk out with $179.47 for the stuff you don't need. We're going to talk about that on another Wealthy Wednesday.
Share and subscribe.
Meet Lynn Richardson, author, entertainment executive, TV personality, and celebrity financial coach.
Please say hello to financial expert, my girl, Lynn Richardson. My buddy, finance expert, Lynn Richardson.
Hey, everybody.
Why do you need Lynn's help?
She uses her quick wit and humorous presentation style to help others face their issues and achieve their personal and professional goals, as well as spiritual harmony.
So I tell our sisters, you go to a rack, $500 purse. Self, do you usually have $500? $20 purse. Self, that's usually how much you got. That's the purse that you get off the rollback rack.
In this current economic crisis due to COVID-19, Sean Diddy Combs invited Lynn Richardson to contribute to his new website, OurFairShare.com, in which Lynn explains the Paycheck Protection Plan that assists small businesses in gaining access to U.S. government funds. Over the last 20 years, Lynn used her financial expertise to create a curriculum of books and online classes to help clients achieve financial freedom. Lynn teaches clients how to get out of credit card debt, shows them how to start a home-based business, and to create multiple streams of income. Lynn Richardson is a celebrity financial coach and founder of the 700 Credit Club. Lynn wants to talk to you about one of the biggest issues that can separate you from your financial freedom, and that's your credit score. Lynn overcame 2 bankruptcies and foreclosure, but with this plan, her score is now over 700, and she's inviting you to join the 700 Credit Club today. Here you'll learn to build your credit and have the financial freedom you dreamed of. For more information about the 700 Credit Club, please visit lynnrichardson.com.
Hi, I'm Lynn Richardson, and I'm excited about teaching you how to build multiple streams of income. But more importantly, I'm excited about teaching you why. I'm a financial expert, but I think there are some things you need to know about me that you'll never read in a newspaper or magazine or see anywhere. I was born and raised in Chicago. As a matter of fact, my grandmother, who passed away almost at the age of 98, she was 75 years old, cleaning homes for wealthy people, putting me through college. I grew up in the projects. I knew we weren't rich, but I didn't feel poor. When I needed money for something, I'd say, Grandma, I need money for a field trip. She'd tell me to go look in the room, on top of the shelf, inside the box, inside my pocketbook, inside the zipper, wrapped up in a piece of paper towel. It's $20. She'd hide the money like 20,000 times. So when I went off to college, I didn't know a lot about money. What I knew is I needed access to it. So I made the mistake that many people make. I went into a room, multiple credit card distributors were there. I didn't get one credit card. I decided to get one of each. Oh boy, that didn't go over well for me. When the creditor started calling and saying, Lynn, can you borrow the money? I said, can I borrow it from you? I had all kind of funny answers, but when I got out into the real world, it wasn't funny anymore. My credit was jacked up. My first furniture came from Rent-A-Center. And I knew right then and there that I was entering the world with a bad relationship with money. Fast forward a few years later, I'm married, 3 children. My career is excellent. I'm making money, but guess what? I was living a lie. I was living check to Monday. You see, check to check is a blessing. That means you get paid by Friday and by the next payday you're broke. But check to Monday is a whole different game. You get paid on Friday, you kick it on the weekend, you pay on your past due bills, and by Monday you're broke. And I was living that lifestyle making $20, $30, $50, $60, $80,000 a month. Not a year, a month. So I learned this. More money doesn't solve a money problem. If it did, millionaires wouldn't go bankrupt. If more money could solve a money problem, you'd never have a bankrupt millionaire. You'd never have a bankrupt billionaire. So what do you have to do to build wealth?